Are you tired of small groups always getting into your business? Trying to get you to share your feelings, discuss your past, confess your sins? Are you just looking for a place to kick it, network, maybe get some free grub? Me too. That's why I created what I believe to be the world's first openly shallow small group. We're not here to deal with messy stuff like feelings and emotions. You got problems? You deal with them. You're an adult. Life ain't easy, so stop the pity party. We all have our issues. We don't really want to do life together. Frankly, at Shallow Small Group, we try not to do much of anything at all. You'll never hear us use the term, unpack that thought. We're sure it's packed away for a really good reason. And you'll never hear us use the term accountability unless you're talking about someone who deals with numbers. Hey dude, thanks for doing my taxes. You have great accountability. And spiritual growth. Who wants growth? I had a growth removed last week. It wasn't pleasant. There's no pressure here to remember each other's name.
What's going on, buddy?
Oh, hey man, how's it going?
That's going good.
Hey, Chief. Oh, dude.
Captain, what's going on?
We know you have a name, and that's the important thing. Group discussion? You got tickets to the big game? Sweet. Let's spend some time on that. Oh, you and your wife are struggling financially? There's tension in the relationship? That's not really the vibe we're going for. We avoid conflict like the plague.
Who wants cake? Come on and get it!
And there will never, ever be an awkward silence. That's our guarantee to you. We hate bad theology as much as the next guy, and we know the surest way to prevent bad theology is to avoid theology altogether. And outreach? This is the only outreach you'll ever have to do. Some people say we're superficial, but hey, the word super isn't superficial. I mean, who doesn't want to be super? Shallow small group, because when things get too deep, people drown. Won't you join us?
It's 2 weeks in a row. I almost missed my own video. This is our second week talking about community. We've been talking about community. We talked about it last week. We talked about it this week. Just so you're aware, there are sign-up sheets right out here for our community groups, for our small groups. That is not for the day of service next week. There's been a little bit of confusion on that. That's for some, and I had to throw away a couple of pages because they had too many names on it that were just for next week and not for community groups. So if those fill up, we're going to print off more. But there's sign-up sheets for our community groups out there. We've been talking about community, and today we're going to continue talking about community and what community should be and how it should be done. Any kind of solo game that you're involved in, any kind of solo sport or solo game that you participate in, that's the opportunity to have some of the most rewarding experiences and some of the most frustrating experiences you could possibly imagine. Tennis, golf, StarCraft, track, any of these things that are solo, that are just you, it's all on you. The thing about that, the reason that's so frustrating but also so rewarding is if you win, if you're playing tennis and you win, if you're running a race and you win, man, you did that. That's all you. Yeah, I'm better than them. I put in the effort and it paid off. I won. But if you lose, man, there's no one else to shovel the blame on. You can't be talking afterwards and be like, well, I put up 35 points. I did what I could, and my team just didn't really show up. You can't do that. If you lose, it's your fault. They were better than you. Doing something like that by yourself, it can be really rewarding, but it can also be really, really frustrating, really even saddening, depressing. Man, I'm just not very good at this, I guess, because everything that went wrong was your fault. A project is the same way. Like a project, you got a project around the house, you're working on something. If you're trying to do it all by yourself, man, if you get it done and it works right and everything's going well, and you feel, I figured this out, I knew where this went, I put this together, I made that, I did this, and it's great. But man, if you spend 3 Saturdays in a row trying to work on something, trying to get it together, and it leans, or it doesn't work right, it doesn't run, you're missing pieces you didn't know you had. You tried it and it didn't work out. Man, it's so frustrating. I can't believe I spent all this time on this. I can't believe I put so much energy into this and nothing's come of it. And it's frustrating, it's depressing, it's saddening. Life, when we try to do life by ourselves, it's much the same way. The only problem is, life will eventually always win. See, that's the only problem. We can go life alone. You can go life solo. The problem is life will eventually win. We're going to be in the book of Ecclesiastes today. Ecclesiastes, and we're going to end up in chapter 4. But in case you've never read Ecclesiastes, it's tucked away in the Old Testament, so some of you might not have read it. Here's kind of the theme of the book of Ecclesiastes, okay? You ready? Here's the overarching theme of Ecclesiastes. Life sucks, okay? And that's a little crass, it's a little harsh, but let me tell you, that's the book, okay? Ecclesiastes chapter 1. Here's chapter 1. This is verse 2. This is how the book kicks off. This is a great way to start a book. Verse 2, everything is meaningless, says the teacher. Completely meaningless. What do people get for all their hard work under the sun? Generations come and generations go, but the earth never changes. The sun rises and the sun sets, and then it hurries around to rise again. The wind blows south, and then it turns north. Around and around it all goes, blowing in circles. Rivers run into the sea, but the sea is never full. Then the water returns to the rivers, and they flow back out to the sea again. Everything is wearisome beyond description. No matter how much we see, we are never satisfied. No matter how much we hear, we are not content. History merely repeats itself. It has all been done before. There's nothing under the sun that is truly new. Some people say, here is something new, but actually it's old. Nothing is ever truly new. We don't remember what happened in the past, and future generations, no one will remember what we are doing now. What a great way to start your book off. Everything is meaningless. What's the point? Solomon, the author of Ecclesiastes, is saying, what's the point? Life's going to win in the end. In the end, life is going to win. So what's the point? What a great Sunday message, right? We can pray, we'll be done. You'll go home and you'll say, the preacher talked about what's the point. That was the message. Life's meaningless. No, here's my point. Life is hard, okay? We can all agree on that. Everyone can agree life's hard. It's not saying it's not good, not saying there's not wonderful things in it, but it is hard. So what are you going to do when life gets hard? Now, we all agree. I mean, almost everyone here saying life's hard, everyone's like, well, yeah, okay, preaching to the choir, I get it. Yeah, life's hard. We all agree on that. But then when you ask, well, what are you going to do about it? Life's hard, so what are you going to do? Well, I don't know if I was going to do anything. I was just going to kind of put my head down and try to weather. I don't know. What's my plan? I don't know. Well, life is hard. We know that. We agree with that. So what are you going to do about it? What are you going to do when your marriage is in trouble? What are you going to do when things are a struggle? Where are you going to go? What are you going to do when your kids are rebelling and they're off doing their own thing? What are you going to do? Where are you going to go? What are you going to do when you're in financial trouble? What are you going to do when you get fired? What are you going to do when you find yourself addicted to pornography? What are you going to do when life gets hard? Because life is hard. But life's harder alone. It's much harder alone. And we all know things get harder when they're alone. I mean, just think about it. If you're someone who's anxious about things, you got something coming up, a project at work, you got something you're responsible for, or just, the in-laws are coming down for a week and you're getting anxious and nervous, or you got something in your life that's causing you anxiety. You can handle that oftentimes when you're around people, but man, when you get alone and you just start thinking about it and just mulling it over in your head, and you get so much more anxious. Anytime my wife's got something like that, she gets the most anxious about that when we're going to bed. And the problem is because she's really alone there. Because what I do when I go to bed is I say, good night, honey, I love you, and I fall asleep, okay? And she stays up for a little while, not willingly, she wants to fall asleep, but it just takes her a little longer. And man, when it's alone and everything's gone and there's no distractions, and then just start turning over and over again, and it just gets so much harder to deal with when you're alone. Whatever you struggle with, your ability to resist temptation goes down when you're alone. I mean, we all know that. I don't know what you struggle with. Everyone struggles. I struggle with stuff. You struggle with something different. But whenever you're alone, your ability to resist that temptation goes down. You ever find it weird, interesting how when you're at church, you're surrounded by Christians, you're surrounded by people, you're worshiping God. Man, you don't think about your temptation all that often. It's pretty easy to say, oh, yeah, that's silly. Oh, yeah, I'm going to do better here. But man, when you get alone, well, it's not that bad. Well, no, I think I could do this. It's not going to hurt anybody else. Well, it's I deserve this, Well, when you get alone, it's harder to resist your temptation. Life's hard, but man, it's harder when you're alone. Everyone here is going to experience heartbreak. It's going to happen. It's not the way God planned it. It's not the way God wanted it to have happen, but it's going to happen because we live in a broken world. And by the consequences of us living in a world that isn't the way God wanted, things are going to happen to us they're going to break our heart. And when we're alone, it can easily lead to becoming broken ourselves. That when my heart breaks, if I'm alone, man, that can become an all-consuming depression for me. Man, that can become something. If I have no one else in my life, if I have no one involved in my life, no one I'm doing life together with, when my heart breaks, I can pour my entire life into that crack. I can become a broken person because of a heartbreak when you're alone. Life's hard, but when you're alone, things can happen. Damaging things can happen to you. Even following Jesus can be hard at times. I mean, most of us have this picture of Jesus, and he's like smiling and waving, and maybe he's like petting a sheep or something, and that's fine. That's nice Jesus. I mean, Jesus was a nice guy. I believe that, yeah. But you know what? Jesus asks us to do some things that are very, very difficult. Very difficult, and they can be hard. Jesus was a radical kind of guy, and he asked his disciples to love and serve their enemies. The boss that you hate. Jesus says, if you want to follow me, you're going to have to learn how to serve him. The neighbor that just annoys you to no end. They are constantly blowing their leaves into your yard. They won't keep things straight. Man, you know what? Maybe it's just they want to talk to you every time they see you. And you're just like, I just want to get inside, And they just annoy you. And God says, you need to figure out how to serve them. The coworker that you can't stand, that they're talking bad about you behind your back. They have something against you. You don't know what it was. You don't know what you did to them. But man, they try to ruin your life. And God says, you know what? You want to follow me? You got to figure out how to serve them. Jesus asked some radical things. He said, love your enemies. And there was no parentheses there. Love your enemies unless they're like this, unless they do this. No, love your enemies. Pray for those who persecute you. It's hard to follow Jesus sometimes. He says to pay your taxes and don't worry about it. He says to give more than 10%. He asks some hard things. And man, when we're alone, it's hard to follow Jesus sometimes, but man, when we're alone, we can explain all that away. I can go to the Bible passage that says love your enemies, and I can explain that away. I can say, well, that didn't mean this, and surely Jesus wasn't thinking about this. And I mean, he was talking about these guys. He was talking about the Romans, big stuff, like the big government and all, not little things like this. He wasn't talking about this. And when we're alone, man, we can explain it away. It's hard to follow Jesus, but when we're alone, I'll figure out how to get around it. Here in Ephesians 5, it says submit to one another. Man, I guess that means people should be submitting to me, right? Isn't that what it means? Submit to one another. You guys submit to one another. Submit to me. We can find ways to explain things away when we don't want to do it. Man, following Jesus can be difficult at times, but when we're alone, I can find ways to become a very, very wishy-washy Jesus follower. Life's hard. Following Jesus even can be hard. So what do? What are we going to do about it? This is our text today, Ephesians chapter 4, verses 9 through 12. It says this: 2 people are better off than one, for they can help each other succeed. If one person falls, the other person can reach out and help. But someone who falls alone is in real trouble. Likewise, 2 people lying close together can keep each other warm, but how can one be warm alone? A person standing alone can be attacked and defeated, but 2 can stand back to back and conquer. 3 are even better, for a triple braided cord is not easily broken. See, we all just talked about how in life we're going to trip and fall. In life, you're going to be cold. In life, you're going to be attacked. There are going to be things that go wrong. It's just what happens. It's not what was supposed to happen. It's not the way God intended it for it to happen. But by virtue of living in a world that we all know, man, there's something wrong in this world. By virtue of living in that world, things are going to go wrong. And when you're alone, all that's left to do is be pitied. Man, did you hear what happened to them? That's a shame. People say that when they don't really have a connection with you. Oh, yeah, they go to my church. I mean, I know them. I see them there on Sunday. I heard that this was going on in their life. That's too bad. All it is pity. And Solomon says, those people are out of luck. Things are going to happen to us. And Solomon says, if you're alone, man, you're in trouble. But if you're in community, if you have people who are going to do life with you, people who are around you and involved in your life, people who love you and you love them, if you're in community, you've got backup. You've got backup. Things are going to go wrong in life. That's just the way life is. But if you're in community, you've got backup. The same author, Solomon, writes this in Proverbs chapter 27, verse 17, where he talks about in community, you've got backup and you can even be made better. He says this, as iron sharpens iron, so a friend sharpens a friend. That in community, you can be crafted together. That you can be crafted into something more than what you were to start with. When troubling things happen to you, that if you have a community around you that can guide you, that can love on you, that can support you through that, you can actually come out the other side stronger than you were when you went in. As iron sharpens iron. There's plenty of ways to make a sword. If you want to make a sword, there's all kinds of different techniques and all kinds of different things you can do. But if you're going to forge a sword, there's two things you have to do. First of all, you have to forge it, and then you have to remove the stock from it. And so what that means is you have to take this piece of metal, whatever you're going to be crafting with here, and you got to heat it up. I mean, just get it insanely hot. And then you're going to take a hammer, and you're going to beat on it, and you're going to shape it into the general shape of what you're making. You're going to shape it into that general sword-like shape. Then what you're going to do is you're going to cut away all the excess and all the imperfections and the things you don't want. You're going to remove everything to get to exactly what you want to do. Now, here's the thing. This piece of metal is just sitting here. It's not going to make a sword out of itself. It's not going to go, well, you know what? I think I'm going to be a sword today, and just do it. No, it takes a lot of outside influences for that piece of metal to become something great. It takes a lot of heat. It takes a lot of pressure. It takes beatings. It takes beatings from someone else for that piece of metal to turn into a weapon, for that piece of metal to turn into a sword. It takes a lot of outside influences. Solomon says if you're by yourself, you're in trouble. But if you're with someone else that can pull you through the pain, if you're in community and you're with someone else, you can actually be crafted. You can be made into something stronger when you come out the other end. Community has this incredible blessing with it. There's this incredible blessing of being in real community, of having people involved in your life and being involved in theirs. Not shallow community. And there's nothing wrong with shallow community. I mean, I love just hanging out and eating food and watching a game as much as anyone else. That's fine. But if that's it, if that's all you have is that shallow community, then you're robbing community of its benefit. Because one of the most incredible things about real community, about doing life with someone, is when you're struggling, you have a whole group of people who will be right there when you need them. You have a whole group of people who can craft you, who can pull you through this and actually make you into something better than you were. Because you see, you can't see, you're going to be heartbroken sometime. In the future, you're going to be brokenhearted. It's going to happen. But when you're in community, you're never going to be broken. They won't let you. When you're in community, when you get brokenhearted, the people in your community, they won't let you be broken. They won't let you go off and be by yourself and dwell on that and enter into a state of depression. They won't let that happen. They will come around you and love on you, support you, cry with you through whatever you're going through. They will be a support for you, but they won't let you be broken. On your own, you could be. I'm not saying you will be, but you could be. But in a real community, they won't let it happen. In the future, one of the great things about community is you're going to have people in the community who have been through it before. You're going to have people in the community who I've been there. I've been in that situation in my marriage. I've been in that situation in my job. I've had that happen to me. I've been there. And they can see in you what's coming. Now, you can't see it in yourself. If we took a poll and said, hey, in the next 10 years, what's going to ruin your life? You wouldn't know. You wouldn't be like, 7 years from now, well, this is going to happen, and that's going to kind of be a real, it's really going to affect my life. You wouldn't know that. But when you're in community and people are involved in your life, and they can see you when they're from the outside and they've been there, they can say, hey, I'm a little worried about this. You see, I've been there. I know it leads up to a broken marriage. I've had a broken marriage. I know it leads up to that. And I'm a little worried by some of the things that you've been saying. There's some things in your life I think that might need to change. That because of community, you can actually avoid some of the most heartbreaking situations that you could ever be in. That they could actually craft you into a better person, into a better husband, a better wife, into a better follower of Jesus because you were in this community. That one of the incredible benefits of being in community is being helped up when you fall down and being sharpened into something better, being made into something better. Community can turn your broken heart into a stronger, renewed heart. You struggle with anxiety. Man, it's so hard to fix that on your own. If you're always anxious about something, it's going to be next to impossible for you to fix yourself because it's coming from you. It's coming from you. You're the problem. And so it's going to be so difficult for me to be that objective, to be that removed from my own self to say, oh, I see, this is what I'm anxious about. I can't do anything about it, so I shouldn't be anxious anymore. Problem solved. That doesn't happen, right? I mean, no one does that. If you do, then God bless you, but no one does that. If you struggle with being anxious and stressful and all that, I mean, that's so hard for you to fix on your own. But when you're in community and when you have people who love you, just the fact that you have a group that loves and supports you and is praying for you, lots of times that alleviates a lot of the stress right there. But on top of that, they can say, hey, I've been seeing this go on, and let me tell you, there's a couple things that you're worried about that you don't need to be worried about. In fact, there's a couple things that you're worried about that don't even exist. In community, you can be crafted into something better. Following Jesus can be difficult. Let me tell you, when we're alone, I can slide all I want on my following of Jesus. But in community, that's not allowed. In community, that's not allowed. See, when I'm alone, I can get a great idea. I can say, man, this would be such a good idea if we did this. This would be such a good thing for a Christian to do. And when we're alone, man, we can drive past someone who's homeless. We can drive past, you're at Walmart in Joplin, and there's almost guaranteed to be at least one person there who doesn't have anything, has a little sign up. You can drive past and go, oh, man, that's too bad. And you can take the right and you can go somewhere else. But if you're in a car full of community, full of people who are your community, who you love and they love you, and they're involved in your life, and you all see that, and you all kind of begin looking at each other and, man, should we do something? Well, I think we should do something. You can't really slide on it. Man, we can be such a wishy-washy Christian by ourselves, but when we're in community, man, things just get done because I'm going to feel terrible if they're outdoing me, and I'm going to feel, and I think, should we do this? And someone goes, yeah, we should, and we can't turn back from there. And when we're in community, it pushes us to be closer, to be deeper with Jesus. We had a community group that met over the summer, and we were just reading through a book and talking about what this book meant and how it made us a better Christian and what we wanted to do for Jesus and just all those kinds of things. And I'm telling you this story not to say like, oh, well, we're great Christians, but for the sense that because it was community, something got done. See, from this group, the idea came up of we should have a community garden here in Baxter Springs, where we can have people come who don't have anything, don't have good food, fresh food, don't have any food. And they can come and they can have the opportunity to have something good in their life that we can provide that for them. We could do that for them. I mean, it could be all kinds of good for kids to learn about, for classes. There's just so much that could benefit from having this. And you know what? The reason we came up with this idea and decided to start to do it, to participate in this, is because we were in community. It wasn't because any of us were great, super, like, oh man, like we're the greatest Christians in the world. That wasn't at all the reason. The reason was because someone said, it'd be neat if we did this. And someone else said, yeah, it would. And at that point, we couldn't really turn back. You can say that by yourself all the time, driving in the car, man, this would be a good idea. And then you'll forget it in 10 minutes. If you're me, you'll forget it in 5 minutes. In community, it forces you, it pushes you to be closer to Jesus. In community, it forces you to leave your temptations, to leave your sin behind. Man, when you're alone, you can be a great Christian. I can be a great Christian, but I've got this sin. I've told no one about it. And it clings to me. And it's wrapped around me. And I really want to be rid of it. I say that. I want to be rid of it. I want to get rid of it. I want to be done with this. I don't want to struggle with this anymore. I'm tired of having this. I'm tired of saying I follow Jesus, but having this thing that no one knows about. And you say that all the time, and yet on the back of this sin that's clinging to your life, on the back of its head, it's rubbed raw because you've been petting it so much, because you cling to it so desperately, because you really don't want to get rid of it. And by yourself, it's so difficult. It's so difficult to get rid of the sin. But in community, things can happen. In community, people can be transformed. You see, it all comes down to what kind of relationship with Jesus do you want to have? Do you want to be holy, or do you want to just be here? Do you want to know Jesus, or do you want to just be known by Jesus? Do you want to have a relationship, or do you just want to be acknowledged? You see, if you want to be close to Jesus, if that's the kind of faith that you want, then you need to be involved in a community because it pushes you to be deeper, to be closer with Jesus Christ. There are so many benefits that come from community. Let me ask you this real quick. What's your plan for reaching people for Jesus in the next 5 years? What's your plan? I think most of us would just say, well, I was going to put a bumper sticker on my car and have a little fish thing, and I was going to be nice, and my coworker says she went to church, and I said I do too. And maybe someone overheard that, and that kind of convinced them to follow Jesus. That's fine. I want everyone to be nice. I don't have a propaganda against bumper stickers or anything. But what's your plan for impacting people for Jesus over the next 5 years? Well, if you don't have one, here's a really easy one. Be involved in community groups. Now, here's what's going to happen. These community groups are going to meet for anywhere from a year to 18 months every time. This first group's going to meet 18 months. Anywhere for a year to 18 months, they're going to meet every time. And here's the thing. In that community group, you're going to be in a group with, let's say you're in a group with 8 people. Let's just say that. You're in a group with 8 people. They're going to meet for 18 months. After that 18 months is over, they're going to split up, and they're going to be in different groups. And you're going to be in a different group. And if you do that every time it's offered over 5 years, you will have impacted 250 people for Jesus. Now, I know our church isn't that big, but you'll have impacted every single person in this church for Jesus. I mean, that's a simple plan. All you have to do is be involved in a community group, and directly or indirectly, you'll have impacted, you'll have had an influence on every single person in this church. You have potentially have brought them closer to Jesus simply because you were involved in the community group. That's a pretty good, pretty easy plan to impact people for Jesus. Community groups have so much just practical benefit to them. Last week we talked about the need for community, that you were created for community, that Jesus expects you to be in community because that's the way you were made. How each and every one of us longs to not be alone, but we want to be in community. And this week, what I'm trying to get across is that community can craft you, can make you, can protect you. That community has this incredibly beneficial side to it. Not connecting with others, or connecting with others in a superficial way might be easier. And it is super easy, right? I mean, it's super easy to talk about something on a TV. It's super easy to talk about how great the chips and dip were, or whatever. That's simple, that's easy. But you lose all the power of community when you do that. You lose all the power of having people involved in your life and being involved in theirs. Here's the thing, community groups are not about entertaining company. When you get involved in the community group, these community groups will meet every other week for about an hour and a half. They're not about entertaining company. Okay, because that entertaining implies that it's got to be like a show. We're going to put on a show. That's not what these community groups are about. They're not about putting on a show. You rob community of the power when you try to put on a show. And company, man, we all know what the word company means, right? It means your wife's walking around going, pick this up, do this, clean this, dust this thing, we'll soap this off, clean things that haven't been cleaned since we've lived here. We got company coming over. That's not what community groups are about. I'm not saying don't clean your house, okay? But I am saying that this is about doing life together. And that goes deeper. There's more to that than entertaining, and there's more to that than we got to make sure our house looks immaculate. This is about, I love you, you love me, now let's do life together. There's power in that. Entertaining company is great. Go on entertaining company. This is not what that is. This is about doing life together. Here at First Christian Church, we want you to be involved in the community. Like I said, there's going to be sign-up sheets out there for you to be involved in a community group. That's going to be this week, next week, and the week after that. Those sign-up sheets will all be out there. Just keep signing up. No, by that, I don't mean put your name down more than once. I mean, if you didn't get the opportunity to, or if you wanted to wait till later, that's fine. But those sign-up sheets will be out there for the next 3 weeks. After that, we're going to put everyone into a community group. These community groups will meet for 18 months, and there'll be an opportunity for us to fellowship, to do life together. It'll be an opportunity for us to get close with one another. It'll be an opportunity for us to learn from one another, to offer something to other people at this church that they might not be able to get from anywhere else. These community groups have an incredible power to change lives. I firmly and truly believe that. And I think it'll work best the more of us that are involved in it. By signing up for these groups, you're going to say, I commit to be there, I commit to be involved, and I commit to be real. It's not about entertaining company. It's about doing life together. Because when we do life together, that's when there's power. Community has the incredible power to craft you through difficult times in your life and to craft you into the image of Jesus. Are you brave enough to say, yes, I'll be a part of that. Yes, I think I'll do that. It takes a lot of courage, but there's a lot of power there too. Would you pray with me? God, we love you. We just pray that you can be with us, that your presence can be made known to us. God, I just pray that you can be with this community group that we're going to try to start. God, that you can be involved, that your Spirit can be present. God, I pray that this can be something that changes our church, that our lives can be changed and touched. God, that those who are hurting can be blessed. God, that those who have been blessed in the past can share that blessing to others. So that in these groups, in this thing that we're trying to start, God, that we can feel the power of the one true God, that we can feel the presence of you, Jesus. God, we love you, and we just pray that we can be brave enough to put ourselves out there. Because it is only by truly putting ourselves out there, by being real, by opening ourselves up, that community can have real power, that we can be crafted and made into something better. God, we love you. We pray all this in your Son's name. Amen.